The sun shone warmly upon the quiet neighborhood of Willow Creek as Ellen walked hand in hand with her 8-year-old grandson, Noah, toward the small grocery store at the edge of town. The air carried the faint scent of blooming lilacs from a nearby garden, and the gentle hum of life surrounded them. Children laughing in the distance, a lawnmower buzzing faintly. Despite the simplicity of her attire, modest, well-worn clothes always kept immaculately clean, Ellen carried herself with a quiet dignity that seemed to transcend her circumstances. Her gray hair was neatly pinned back, and her steps, though slow from years of labor, were steady. She had seen her share of hardships, decades of factory work, the loss of her husband to illness, and the unimaginable pain of outliving her only child. But her love for Noah kept her moving forward, a beacon of resilience in a life weathered by storms. Noah's small fingers squeezed hers excitedly as they neared the store's faded green awning. His wide, innocent eyes, bright blue, like his mother's, scanned the towering shelves inside, filled with a vast array of goods, colorful cereal boxes, gleaming jars of jam, and stacks of canned vegetables. Many of these were luxuries he rarely had the chance to take home. Though Ellen could not afford much, she had a gift for turning their modest trips into small adventures. She'd invent stories about the items they passed, how the apples were grown by a farmer with a magical orchard, or how the pasta was shaped by tiny elves with rolling pins, ensuring Noah never felt the weight of their struggles. Today, he skipped beside her, his worn sneakers scuffing the pavement, his boundless energy a stark contrast to her measured pace. As they moved through the aisles, Ellen meticulously examined the price tags, her lips moving silently as she calculated totals in her head. A bag of rice, a carton of milk, a loaf of day-old bread. Each decision deliberate, each purchase necessary. She carried a small notebook in her purse, its pages filled with cramped handwriting tracking every expense. Though she never voiced her concerns aloud, she knew how tight their budget was. The modest pension she received barely covered rent for their one-bedroom apartment, and the little savings she'd once had were long depleted by medical bills from her daughter's accident. Every cent counted, and there was no room for indulgence, not even moments lapse. Then, as they passed the cookie aisle, Noah's face lit up with recognition. He reached for a familiar blue and white box of chocolate cookies, his voice filled with warmth and a hint of nostalgia. "Grandma, these are the ones Mom always got me," he said, turning to her with hopeful eyes that sparkled under the fluorescent lights. Ellen's heart clenched at the mention of her late daughter, Sophie. It had been 2 years since the tragic car accident that took Sophie away. A rainy night, a slick road, a driver who'd had one too many. Sophie had been a single mother, vibrant and fierce, working 2 jobs to give Noah a good life. When she died, Ellen became Noah's sole guardian, stepping into a role she hadn't anticipated at 65. The grief had never fully faded. It lingered like a shadow, surfacing in quiet moments. When she saw Sophie's smile in Noah's face, or when she found one of her daughter's old scarves tucked in a drawer. But Ellen had pushed forward, determined to keep her promise to Sophie, to ensure Noah had a happy life, no matter what it took. She hesitated, glancing at the price tag, $3.49. It was an unnecessary expense, a luxury that could tip her fragile budget into chaos. She'd already skipped her own prescriptions this month to afford Noah's school supplies. But as she looked down at him, the sheer joy in his expression, the way his small hands clutched the box as if it were a treasure, melted her resolve. For once, she allowed herself to bend her strict rules, placing the cookies gently in the cart beside the essentials. "Of course, sweetheart," she said with a warm smile, masking the worry that gnawed at her. "We'll make it work." Their journey continued to the checkout line, where Ellen retrieved a small, faded pouch of coins from her bag. She had counted them carefully before they left home, quarters, dimes, nickels, even a few pennies, ensuring she had just enough. The pouch was a relic from better days, embroidered with daisies by Sophie when she was a teenager. Now, it held the last of their resources until Ellen's next pension check arrived in a week. She approached the counter with quiet determination, steeling herself for the transaction. But she couldn't anticipate what was about to unfold. The cashier, a young man named Tyler with a patchy beard and a name tag slightly askew, let out an exaggerated sigh when he saw her pouch. His arms crossed impatiently as he tapped his foot against the linoleum floor, the sound echoing in the otherwise quiet store. "Coins? Seriously? This isn't a bank, lady," he scoffed, his voice dripping with disdain. Ellen's hands trembled as she began to count, trying to remain composed under his gaze. She placed each coin deliberately on the counter, quarters clinking softly, dimes sliding into a neat pile. Noah looked up at her, sensing her unease but not fully understanding the source. Tyler continued his tirade, his tone growing sharper with each word. "You couldn't count these at home before coming here? You're holding everyone up," he said, shaking his head. "Folks, I hope you're comfortable. This is going to take forever." A few customers in line chuckled, their laughter a dagger to Ellen's pride. Others shifted uncomfortably, avoiding her gaze. Her face burned with shame, the heat creeping up her neck as she tried to move faster. Her arthritic fingers fumbled, dropping a nickel that rolled under the counter. She bent to retrieve it, her knees creaking, and Tyler snorted. "I'm sorry," she murmured softly, her voice barely audible over the hum of the store's refrigeration units. Tyler rolled his eyes dramatically, leaning against the register. "Sorry doesn't cut it, lady. Maybe next time, bring a card like normal people." At that moment, Ellen realized with horror that she was a few cents short. She'd miscalculated, perhaps forgetting the tax or underestimating the bread's price. Her stomach sank as she recounted the coins, the total stubbornly refusing to match the bill flashing on the register, $12.87. Taking a deep breath, she turned to Noah, her heart breaking as she prepared to undo her small act of indulgence. I think we'll leave the cookies. Just the other items, please," she said, her voice cracking slightly. Noah forced a smile, his voice small but filled with understanding beyond his years. "It's okay, Grandma. I wasn't really in the mood for cookies anyway." Ellen swallowed hard, but the pain was evident in her eyes, deep brown eyes that had seen too much sorrow. Tyler grabbed a box of cookies with a smack, tossing it aside onto a cluttered return shelf. "Finally, maybe now we can get this line moving," he quipped sarcastically, scanning the remaining items with exaggerated speed. The moment was shattered by a deep, steady voice from behind. "That's enough." A hush fell over the checkout line, the air thickening with tension. Ellen turned to see a tall man in a black leather jacket and dark sunglasses stepping forward. His presence commanded attention. Broad shoulders, a calm but unyielding demeanor, his boots clicking softly against the floor. He removed his sunglasses, revealing a piercing gaze that seemed to see straight through the petty cruelty unfolding before him. Tyler scoffed, though his bravado faltered slightly. "And who are you, exactly?" "Her lawyer." The man's lips curled into a slight, almost amused smile. "No, just someone who doesn't tolerate disrespect." Whispers rippled through the crowd. A teenage girl in line nudged her friend, her eyes widening. "Wait, is that KeanuReeves?" she hissed. An older woman clutching a basket of canned goods squinted, then gasped. "It is. I saw him in that motorcycle documentary." Tyler's arrogance wavered as recognition dawned on him. His face paled slightly, the smirk fading. "KeanuReeves," he stammered, his voice losing its edge. Keanu took a step forward, his voice calm yet firm, cutting through the murmurs like a blade. "This woman is paying just like everyone else. What gives you the right to treat her this way?" Tyler fumbled for a response, his hands hovering uselessly over the register. I didn't mean, she was just slow, man." Keanu's gaze didn't waver. Slow? Or just doing her best with what she has? He glanced at the pile of coins, then back at Tyler. "You've got a job because people like her come here. Maybe show some gratitude." The murmurs among the customers grew louder, their disapproval now palpable. A middle-aged man in a plaid shirt muttered, "Kid's got no manners," while a woman with a toddler nodded in agreement. Keanu turned to Ellen and Noah, his expression softening as he took in their faces, Ellen's lined with quiet strength, Noah's bright with innocence. His gaze fell on the discarded cookies, and he gently picked them up from the return shelf, brushing off a speck of dust. "These look delicious," he said, handing them back to Noah with a small smile. "I think they should definitely go home with you today." Noah's face lit up, his earlier disappointment forgotten. "Really? Thank you, Mr. Ellen hesitated, her pride warring with her gratitude. I can't accept this," she said, her voice trembling as she clutched her pouch. Keanu met her eyes, his tone gentle but resolute. "You've done so much for him. Let someone do something for you. Then, turning back to Tyler, Keanu's expression hardened once more. Cancel this transaction, he ordered, pulling a sleek black card from his wallet and sliding it across the counter. Tyler blinked, flustered. Cancel? But you just paid. Keanu shrugged, his tone casual but firm. I did, but now I'm paying for a different purchase. A real one. He turned to Ellen and Noah with a reassuring nod. Let's do some proper shopping. Ellen's eyes welled up, a single tear escaping down her cheek. Keanu, this is too much, she whispered, clutching Noah's hand. Keanu gently placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch steadying. Kindness is never too much. With that, he grabbed a new cart from the stack by the entrance and led Ellen and Noah back into the store. This time, there was no hesitation. He moved with purpose, encouraging Ellen to pick out what she'd always denied herself, fresh carrots and potatoes for a hearty stew, a roast chicken instead of discounted scraps, a warm jacket for Noah to replace the one he'd outgrown. Noah ran down the aisles, giggling as Keanu pointed out items with playful enthusiasm. How about this? Keanu asked, holding up a box of pancake mix. You could make a stack taller than you, Noah. Noah laughed, nodding eagerly. With syrup. Lots of syrup, Keanu promised, tossing it into the cart. Ellen watched in quiet awe, her initial resistance giving way to gratitude. She added a small jar of honey, something she hadn't tasted in years, and Keanu nodded approvingly. Good choice. Goes great with tea. As they passed the toy aisle, Keanu paused, crouching to Noah's level. Pick something out. Anything you want. Noah's eyes widened, darting between a model spaceship and a set of colorful building blocks. Can I really? Absolutely, Keanu said. Heroes need their gear. Noah chose the spaceship, clutching it to his chest like a prize. Ellen smiled, her heart swelling at the sight of his joy, a rarity in their frugal life. At the checkout, Keanu personally completed the purchase, swiping his card as a total climb far beyond what Ellen could ever have afforded. The cart overflowed with groceries, clothes, and even a new pair of shoes for Ellen, one she'd eyed but quickly dismissed earlier. Customers who'd lingered to watch erupted into applause, some wiping away tears. The teenage girl snapped a photo, whispering, "This is going viral." As they left the store, Noah looked up at Keanu with pure admiration, the spaceship tucked under his arm. You're like a real-life hero. Keanu knelt to his eye level, his smile genuine. Real heroes take care of the people they love, just like your grandma does for you. Ellen reached out, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know how to repay you, Keanu. He stood, shaking his head. You already have, by raising him right. That's more than enough. The story of Keanu's generosity spread like wildfire. By evening, the teenage girl photo had thousands of likes on X, with captions praising his kindness. Local news picked up the tale, interviewing customers who'd witnessed it. The store manager, a stern woman named Ruth who'd been off that day, saw the coverage and called an emergency staff meeting. She implemented new training to ensure kindness and empathy among employees, using Ellen's story as a lesson. Even Tyler, humbled by the experience, approached Ruth the next day, his head low. I messed up, he admitted. I want to do better. Ruth gave him a second chance, pairing him with a mentor to rebuild his attitude. Over time, Tyler became known for his patience, especially with elderly customers, a quiet redemption no one had expected. A few weeks later, Ellen's ancient rotary phone rang as she stirred a pot of stew, the first hearty meal she'd cooked in months, thanks to Keanu's gift. She wiped her hands on her apron and answered, surprised to hear his familiar voice. I wanted to tell you, Keanu said warmly, I'm funding Noah's education. A trust fund's been set up. He'll have every opportunity he deserves, from school to college. Ellen clutched the phone, tears streaming down her face as she sank into a chair. I don't know how to thank you. Keanu's voice was gentle, steady. Just keep being the incredible grandmother you already are. She hung up, overwhelmed, and pulled Noah into a hug as he played with his spaceship nearby. We're going to be okay, sweetheart, she whispered. And so, their lives changed, not just because of generosity, but because of the reminder that kindness, no matter how small, has the power to ripple outward. The neighborhood rallied around them, inspired by Keanu's act. A local seamstress named Lila offered to mend their clothes for free. A teacher at Noah's school, Ms. Harper, started a book drive, ensuring he had stories to fuel his imagination. Years later, Noah, now a young man studying aerospace engineering, thanks to Keanu's fund, would look back on that day in the grocery store. He'd built that model spaceship 100 times, each piece a reminder of the stranger who'd seen his grandmother's worth. At his college graduation, he spotted Keanu in the crowd, older now but still with that quiet presence. They locked eyes, and Noah mouthed a silent thank you. Keanu nodded back, a faint smile on his lips. Noah went on to design spacecraft, driven by a dream to reach the stars. But he never forgot the lesson etched into his soul. Kindness is something to be passed on, just as it was given to him. And in Willow Creek, Ellen, now in her twilight years, became a quiet legend, her story told and retold, a testament to the power of compassion in a world too often cold.